Tori Lugston is back with us. Hello, Tori.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Last time you caused a kerfuffle talking about underwear that went up in the crease. My goodness me. You took us to the bottom.
Complaints?
No, not at all. No, you took us to the bottom of the pile with that one. My goodness, but it was great fun. And making a welcome return, he hasn't done this for ages, Mark Keeble. Hello, Mark.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Great to have you on the show again. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, nothing too serious, everybody. Nothing too serious. There's enough of me around in the world today, but a few light-hearted grumps that wind us up a little bit. And Mark, should we start with you, because you haven't been on for a little while, so I guess you've stored a few up. Let's talk about the gift that keeps on giving for Mark Murphy at breakfast, and that is pothole repairs, Mark.
Right, okay, you're off at 10, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, potholes, as you say, are always a problem, and it irritates everyone, especially when it damages a car. But when they come to repair the road, why on earth can't they do it? A particular stretch near where I work had a string of holes, and suddenly the yellow lines started appearing around them. We got quite excited. They shut the road for 15, 20 minutes to do these repairs, and just the other side of, literally a foot away from there, is another hole. So I went out and had a grump at them and sort of said, what about that? And they said, that's not on our worksheet.
Oh, dear.
And there's no yellow paint around it, so we're not doing it. So the road was shut for 15, 20 minutes, and they repaired it. And literally about 4 or 5 weeks later, they came and did that one. And they're gradually coming back and doing all these little perforations up the road, bit by bit. They'd have been and then occasionally there'll be a car park there, so they can't do it. So that therefore it gets crossed off. And the amount of men, I mean, there was probably about half a dozen to a dozen guys out there, and the cost, that's just absolutely stupid.
And you think they'd be better off sort of thinking, right, okay, we're going to do X Avenue today, close it all off and sort it out, and then move on to the next one?
Well, that's common sense. You wouldn't make Sunday roast, would you, and do the Yorkshires and then do the roast beef tomorrow?
No, probably not. I think
that's the same thing.
Tori has her own experiences of this, don't you?
Yeah, I keep falling in the same one. They mend it. I went through, got a puncture, got that changed. A massive one. It was, I reckon there was cavemen in the bottom of it. Went through it. Then they repaired it. And then 2 weeks later, I went back that way, another puddle, went through it again, did both wheels that time. It's cost me nearly 500 quid in tyres.
Yeah.
Expensive.
But I've seen something. I've got a cunning plan. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this.
No, go on.
Well, I saw something on social media where, you know when they have their yellow paint, when they draw around it, if you draw a massive something around it, they'll soon come and fix it, wouldn't they?
I think I know what you're referring to here. So if you draw a massive man's bit around the pothole,
I reckon they'd come quicker.
They would come quicker and fill it in. I've seen that image.
I'm too well behaved for that.
I've seen that image before, and I've seen people and a well-known local councillor here in Suffolk went and planted flowers in potholes in his patch because they were so deep, and they came and filled them in pretty quick after that. I mean, in fairness to them, Mark, it's a difficult job, isn't it, after all the snow and ice we had?
Well, it's a difficult job, but this was way before then. This was the other side of Christmas, sort of late last year. So no, there's no excuse there. There was no snow on the road or anything, and it was quite clear. And I would say that to actually have painted around one of them, the guy must have stood in the other hole.
Maybe they should just leave him in there, and then it's like a warning sign.
Oh yes, with a little sign. Yeah, I'm in a pothole.
Wouldn't it? They just plant one of their men in the potholes, and it'd be much cheaper than actually repairing them.
I did have an example from where I used to live in Ipswich, and there were lots of potholes where I used to live, and an ex-neighbour who we keep in touch with was telling me about the day they filled them in. This was probably 18 months ago now, maybe a bit longer, but they were filling them in, and when the truck drove off, there was one pothole, quite a large one, left behind, because what they'd actually done he's parked the truck over the pothole and not seen it needed doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the cost, what it must be costing the council. No, I take that back. What it's actually costing us, because people happen to do or go back to a site 2, 3, 4 times. The amount of time when they shut the road off would have took literally seconds or whatever. But he couldn't do it because it wasn't on his docket.
Well, them's the rules, Mark. Them's the rules. I'd love to hear from you as well. 0800 141 2121 if you feel that you agree or disagree with Mark. Tori, you were coming in there?
Well, it's made my driving terrible because if there's a puddle now, I'm like, oh, has that got a big pothole in the middle? Can I avoid it? I'm veering all over the road trying to avoid them.
Difficult as well if you're a cyclist. We're trying to encourage more people to cycle in Suffolk, yet I would imagine it's not the safest thing to do, perhaps, with some of our roads, maybe.
Oh, I think it could be quite messy. There'd be bits of cyclists all in these holes everywhere.
0800 141 2121. Now, we'll move on to one of yours, Tori, and spare buttons.
Oh.
We've got to be very careful now, actually, because I think, if I remember rightly, that Matt Marvel, who produces the programme, doesn't like buttons.
Does he not?
I'm fairly certain Matt doesn't like buttons.
Like a clown thing.
Yeah.
He didn't mention it when he asked me for my grumps. He
came out in a bit of a cold shudder, I think.
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Anyway, spare buttons, well, they're always attached to clothes that you buy, aren't they? And they're a little plastic packet. And it's always a bit that you miss. So you're mincing around in your new gear, and you just get this sudden kind of like plastic feeling. What's that? Or down the back of your trousers or somewhere. And then you find it and you whip it off and you put it in a coat pocket. And then you find this button about 10 years later. And what does that belong to?
So do you doubt that anybody's ever used the spare button?
I don't know. My mum used to have a button tin, though.
I know that's what freaks Matt out, actually. That's really what gets him. He's actually going to join us now live from the Mark Murphy at Breakfast hub.
Yeah, I have a hatred of... My mum had a bowl of buttons, and kind of just the idea of putting my hand into that just freaks me out. It just fills me with a bit of terror. Yeah.
Oh, Matt, you should have let me have my other grump then instead.
So, why did this start? Do you know? Did you have a particular moment? Were you frightened by a button, or
no?
Did you not like Button Moon on the telly?
I think I just find them disgusting. I think because buttons can hold dirt and disgusting things, can't they? I just think there's a bit of a nastiness about them.
So, how do you get on with your own buttons on your shirts?
I don't wear button shirts very often.
That's true. I've seldom seen you with any buttons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would cope if it was that. It's when they're together that it really freaks me out.
Luckily, you don't see that very often now, Matt. So you're pretty safe.
No, and I think
go to haberdashers.
I think it's because my mum gave me a box of buttons to play with. I think that's probably where it stems from.
Oh, you poor child! Is that all you had?
Pretty much.
I
Yeah.
had cars.
Oh, bless your heart.
Oh, I'll let you go back.
Matt,
I'll let you go back and produce.
Matt,
go on.
Matt, you wouldn't like to meet up with a pearly king or queen then?
Oh, gosh.
No, that'd be my worst nightmare. It really would.
Well, we can fix that for you.
No, don't.
We can make that happen. That's interesting. So, Mark, do you value the spare button or not?
Yeah, but going back by what Tori said, I mean, yeah, I always put them in a pocket, pull them off normally and put them in a pocket, mainly down to experience. I had a shirt, a rather expensive shirt, that had a couple of spare buttons, one for the collar and one for the actual main sort of doing the up bit, and had a little bag, and didn't realise, and was ironing the shirt, and the whole lot melted and stuck to the inside of the shirt.
Yeah, that's not fun. I can't see the point because really, I often do pop a button. I'm a bit of a fat bird, so it happens. But I generally retrieve the button because if it pings off, there's nothing more embarrassing anyway.
Well, Brian's been in touch on this. He says, "Morning, Mark. I'm with Tori. Referenced the frustration of those buttons, but I have to say," he says, "I've had so many bust off my trousers in the last 12 months. I have a newfound respect for them. # growing guts," he says.
Well, what you need to do, Brian, is get a little hair toggle and you attach it through your hole in your thingy, and then you can put it around the other hole, and you've got yourself a whole new ball game. You've got an extra stretch in your trousers.
Yes, or you buy the expandable waistline trousers that I do. Well, it's called an active waistband, which makes it sound much better, doesn't it? Makes you sound like you exercise a lot, and it's an active waistband, so you can bend over and do your exercises quite well.
Wow, that's it. Lycra's my friend.
Yeah, you need an active waistband. Let's go back to potholes. Margaret's in Hawley. Hello, Margaret.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. What happens in Scotland?
Well, we were on a coach tour several years ago, and we thought it was brilliant. They had a tanker with all the tarmac in. They had a crew. They had a lorry with all the equipment on. They drove along. There's a hole. Put the cones out. Filled it in. Drove along. Filled the next one up. When we came back that evening, the side of the road where they'd been working, we went, oh, look, you can see where they filled all the holes in. We thought, what a brilliant idea.
So, if they can do it in Scotland, they should be able to do it here.
Well, we thought so. I mean, if they picked an area each day and said, right, we'll do that area up and down the road, there's a hole, put some cones out, like somebody said, takes them 20 minutes, done, move on to the next.
Let's do another one of yours, Mark. Tradespeople. You want to talk about tradespeople?
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, most small businesses are really good, but occasionally you'll get people who will say, oh, I haven't got any work and I'm really desperate for work. So therefore, can somebody explain to me, when I speak to a person about a job, why they don't get back to me? I had a recent incident. I'm sorted now, so I don't want loads of phone calls from people, but I wanted a tree chopped and basically halved in size. And I spoke to, I think it was either 6 or 7 different people who, I can't remember the name, who would sort my tree out.
Surgeons, yeah.
Tree surgeon, yeah. And they all sort of said, yeah, I'll come back to you, or they didn't answer their phone. Now, I accept that they're probably halfway up a tree, so they're not going to answer the phone, but I left messages. We will get back to you. And of them, only one has come back to me. But at the same time, these people are still mooning that they haven't got any work.
Oh, I mean, that is very frustrating, isn't it? If they don't want the work, just say, look, I'm really busy, I can't do it, rather than just leave you hanging.
Yeah, and I mean, a few years ago, I had a similar sort of thing with another guy who I had a fence, and I had about 4 or 5 pieces of fence, and it wasn't panel, and it was proper built fence. 4 or 5 pieces that needed sort of mending, sort of about 12 foot of fence. And the guy came and he looked and he said, I'll replace all of it. And I said, well, the rest of it is all sound. And he said, I'll either replace it all or not at all. So he could have got work for sort of like 12 foot of fence, but because he wanted the whole 20, 30 foot, he turned the job down.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you ring up and people don't even bother to get back to you and say, no, I don't want it, or I'm busy, or it's not what I do. And at least then you know that you can move on to somebody else rather than keep waiting and waiting and waiting. Yeah. I mean, I run a business, and if we had an inquiry like that and somebody didn't get back, I would be asking questions of my staff. Why didn't you answer? Why didn't you get back to this person? This person clearly wants to, do business with us. I'm going to ask Tori about tradespeople. We weren't going to do this as one of her grumps, but as you've introduced tradespeople to us, Mark, Tori, be as sensitive as you can, Tori, because we were fairly lavatorial last week on the show, and you're taking us to the bottom again today, aren't you? But it does involve tradespeople, doesn't it?
It does, and that's why I've kept quite quiet. What is it, right? I've had a few tradespeople. We've done up our house, so we've obviously had lots of people help us out and everything.
Yeah.
Why is it that when they come to your house and they do some work, that they always have to have a number 2? What is that about? Because I can't cope. When I used to go and work in an office, if I needed one of those, I had to go down 2 floors in case someone I knew saw me. So how come, I live in a bungalow, how come people can do a poo in my house and be so okay with it? Because I spoke to a few people about, because I was really quite like, oh God, there's someone, and bless their heart, they'd open the window and even use the toilet brush, which made it even worse because someone has used my toilet brush. But
a stranger's been for a number 2 in my toilet.
I know, and use the toilet brush. I had to go to B&M and buy loads and loads of explosive disinfectant stuff because I don't even like my own children or husband's number 2s, never mind anyone else's. But I didn't really want to go down here. It's a bit rude, isn't it?
No, well, that's, if you say, you know, there's the toilet, use it. Yeah.
I don't understand how you can't hold on, because I know farmer types. I discussed it with them because I was obviously a little bit excited about it, and I talked to someone about it, and he's like, "Well, I go before I leave the house, and it becomes part of a routine." And I think as men generally sit down for quite a long time, it might be part of most people's routines. So how come as soon as someone arrives at my house, they have to have a number 2?
I don't know. Call now if you have a similar experience, or you are a tradesperson and
I feel really mean because
want to put
obviously
your part to it. Wait, when you got to go, haven't you, poor old boys?
No, you don't.
Tori?
I can hold on.
Go on,
Tori,
Mark.
Yeah.
he wasn't one of these guys. I mean, some men don't shut the bathroom door. He did shut the bathroom door, didn't he?
Well, the first one, my office is right next to the bathroom because we live in a bungalow, and the first one I could even hear him.
Oh.
I was honestly, I don't like anything like that. It upsets me. So I was.
Well, next time you book someone, just why don't you say, can you make sure that you go before you come?
Well, I've had a discussion with my husband about putting an outside privy back in.
Just for the tradespeople.
Poor
old tradespeople.
I know, I was desperate for the building work to be done as well. Desperate, and then that happened.
Have you had issues with as Mark has, with people not replying and not coming back to you when you want something done?
Well, over the years we have, yes we have, because when we did the house up, we obviously had lots of different tradespeople, but now what you find is you have these special ones, and my special ones would never ever do a number 2 in my house. So they know, and I hopefully, my special ones will be listening today and say, yeah, it wasn't me. Trying to find a really good person to do those little jobs. Yeah. We had a terrible electrician when we first started. He was pretty unreliable. But now I've got my special friends, and they know.
Do you offer them a cup of tea? Because Carl has just sent a message here. He says it's a well-known fact, if you don't make a tradesman a cup of tea, they'll go and do a number 2 and maybe not flush. So always make a tradesperson a cup of tea. There we are. That's like a thought for the day.
My best trick is, because we're not on main sewage, so we have to have our tank thing emptied, and for me that's the ultimate in hell. But my best trick is when the man comes to empty the poo tank, I take him a mini roll.
Well, I've just had a text to my personal phone from Steve, the carpet fitter. He says, I only had a wee at your place, honest. He says he was there last week. No, earlier this week, actually. That's what else we've got coming in here. Back to potholes, the gift that keeps on giving. Mal in Ipswich, have you noticed how many new potholes have appeared on the A14 between Felixstowe and the Seven Hills westbound? This road has recently been resurfaced. Is this bad workmanship? Well, it's very true. I have noticed on that stretch that there have been some potholes appear where it has just been resurfaced. So very, very interesting. Okay, so, Tori, when we get to a certain age, we make noises that we didn't make before, and we get aches and pains when we do things.
Well, where does this come from? I didn't used to go oof when I bend over. You could bend over and pick something up. You can't help it if you bend over. Ooh, there's always a noise pops out wherever you are. And it's always a surprising noise. And when you sneeze, when did you suddenly become the person that says something that goes with it? Because my mum always used to go, but you ha-ha, and now I do it. Where do all these things come from? And what these aches? I staple gunned some chicken wire to my fence for my climbing roses because I'm that age.
Yes.
And I couldn't lift my arm for the next day. It was a staple gun. A staple gun injury. I caught my finger in my auto recoil hose yesterday. When did I get so old that I can't A, roll up a hose, and B, that I don't notice that it's coming back so hard it's going to crack my finger in it.
I'm with you on the noise making. When I sit down, I go like that. Oh, it's lovely. Lovely.
A nice cup of tea. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just happens. I'm sure we didn't used to do it. And it just suddenly creeps up on you.
Do you do this, Mark? Is this are you of that certain age?
Yeah, I think I am. We keep all our cereal on the top at the top of the cupboard, and even though I'm tall, I have to stretch to pick it up. And I'm just thinking about it. Just half an hour ago, I sort of stretched up to get the wheat bix, and it wasn't a real effort. I mean, it didn't really hurt. I mean, if it actually hurt, I could understand it, but yeah. So
when
I
you
do.
lift your bags of shopping as well. And just these noises.
Yeah, I think I don't know what age it actually starts, but you know, it starts.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's when you're sort of bending down or going to sit down or reaching for something. Sound effects do start to arrive, don't they, from your body?
Well,
It's very strange.
What happens next? Is it when we can't hear ourselves? Then what happens?
Well, it's just a slippery slope, isn't it, really? I remember reading a Jeremy Clarkson column in The Sun one day, and I think he'd just passed 40 or 50, I can't remember which it was. It was one of those big landmarks. And he said that the thing is, when you get to a certain age, you simply wake up the next day, and things that worked perfectly well the day before have stopped working. And I laughed at the time, thinking, oh, silly old so-and-so. But he's absolutely right. There are things that you think, oh, crikey, my moral knee now, you know. And
oh yeah, and it's the weirdest things. Like I had an eye twitch the other day. What's that about? And I think I used to hear old people talk. Oh, I've got a terrible twitchy eye. I think, what are you talking about? Ridiculous. And then there's my eye giving it.
yeah.
Well,
it's when you meet friends. It's when you meet friends and you haven't seen them for a long time. You know, like we're doing now. We get together in our gardens, and you reach the stage where you start talking about your ailments and the pills that you're on. Oh, I love my statins. Oh, I can't. Oh, my statins.
I must rattle like as you get older. I think you have more pills every morning.
I know.
You've got to get
I know.
Up.
Yeah.
I have to have my
I'm now up to
B12
5.
to make me cheerful.
I'm up to 5 a day.
Oh, I'm only on 3. I'm not quite as old.
What are you on, Mark?
5. And one of them is a statin. And talking of that, that's another thing that irritates me. So I've got all these different quantities of tablets,
yes,
but they all run out at different times.
Yes.
And so I get 28 of one, but 30 of another, you know, and sort of they're one a day. And
so you spend your whole time queuing at the pharmacy for the grumpy woman to tell you off for not having had your blood pressure read or something.
Yeah.
And then they get out of sync. So because they then get out of sync, I'm sort of like, I'm trying to order the lot all in one go, and his computer says no.
Yeah, I know. It's very difficult. Very difficult. I mean, I do remember the time that I was queuing up in the pharmacy at Felixstowe. It was very, very busy. And the woman shouted from behind the counter, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'd like to pick up my order a prescription." And she said, well, what tablets do you want then, and what are they for? And I said, I beg your pardon, would you mind stepping forward? I don't really want to tell the whole chemist shop what my particular ailments are. Thank you very much. I went, oh, okay then. But I'm with you on both of those, noises and aches and pains. So yeah, I think we're all along with that one. Matt Marvel is of a certain age. He's under 50. I wonder if do you make Marvel noises when you stand up and sit down? Yeah, or not?
Yes, I do, especially after a long cycle ride.
Okay,
which I do take part in quite a lot.
Yeah. So what are you, 43?
I am. Yeah. Well remembered. Very good. Very good.
I know these
He's a mere
things.
whippersnapper.
Yeah. When's my birthday?
He doesn't get achy because he spends all his time climbing out the potholes. Look.
Yeah.
So you don't. So you've just started sort of making the
exactly.
noises and things.
And then something will cramp up, and you're kind of back on the floor
You'll grow
again.
into it. And how many pills a day are you on? This is another test.
At the moment, none.
Ooh.
But a year ago, there was a few pills being popped.
Right. Okay. You'll grow into it like the rest of us.
Yeah.
One day you'll go into it. There we are, 43-year-old. And what else have we got here? Mark, TV credits at the end of programmes.
Yeah, we'll watch a programme and I'll say, that's that guy who was in and sort of think, all right, I'll look his name up at the end, and I can check to prove,
Yep.
just to prove that point that I was correct. And there's, as far as I'm aware, credits isn't it in people's contracts? Like the guy who held the microphone or the guy who made the tea. It's part of their contract that they get credited at the end of the program.
Yes.
And there's a reason, some sort of newfangled idea that as soon as the program finishes, it zooms into the left-hand corner the size of a postage stamp. So they're still displaying the credits, but no one could possibly, especially with my eyes, got to change about 3 pairs of glasses.
It does
to
fly a
find a pair
gazillion
that'll
miles an
actually-
hour, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can't read them. And then it comes right down back and fills the screen again just as the date comes on. So, that's not...
No, I know.
Just so irritating.
I know. It is very irritating. You're absolutely right. And equally irritating, and I was watching a drama the night before last, and equally irritating for me, and it's growing and growing and growing, and it's now a global phenomenon, this, is the coffee cup in a TV or film production with no liquid in it. And I've talked about this before, and it is intensely annoying because you see them, they're given a coffee cup, a takeaway coffee cup, and you can see them waving it around. There's clearly nothing in there. They've gone to great expense and effort to make sure that all the scenery is as it should be and the script is as it should be. Yet the one thing that lets them down is the coffee cup. And then they'll have a little sip of it, and you can tell they're not drinking anything. And then they pop it down on the counter, and you can hear that it's empty. It just goes pop. And there's no fluid in that at all. Now, I'm not suggesting that they put hot coffee in those cups, but they could at least put water in there so that it does, so when and I've got my coffee here. So you do make a noise and you put it down and it sounds as if it's got coffee in rather than an empty cup. It annoys me intensely. And it's almost every programme now.
Yeah.
Health and safety, I reckon. They can't be trusted. They're only allowed to act, not drink.
Oh dear, I know they're actors, but they, it just annoys me intensely. Anyway, finally, the clocks have changed, Tori.
Oh, I love summer. I am a real summer person, but the clock change is just like the most brutal thing on the planet, isn't it? It's a whole hour less, and all you do is spend your entire time looking at the clock thinking, what time was it? I got up at 6 o'clock new time. Yeah, it would have been 5 o'clock. And the worst thing is because the hours have gone forward, you're eating an hour earlier, so you don't want to eat an hour earlier, so you eat a bit later, but then at normal lunchtime, you're having to eat again. So I'm constantly eating at the moment. I don't know what time a meal is. I don't know when to shut my curtains. My ducks won't go to bed. I'm fine once we get used to it because I like the lighter evenings.
So do I. I wish we stayed like this all the while. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, so do I. I want to live a little bit closer to the equator. I was saying the other day, so it is like this all the time.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
So that you never had to alter your clocks because it was always sort of like that. But goodness, Tori, that's 1 hour twice a year, one forward, one back. How do you cope if you went to, say, somebody like Australia and your 12 hours
I can't
time
do it.
difference?
I'm a very routine animal, me. So it just confuses me for a little while. It takes me about a week, and then I'm okay. But the whole time you're always thinking, well, what time is it? Where am I? Who am I? What time is it? Like my clock on my computer says 9:46. Is it 9:46 or is it 8:46 or is it 10:46? What time is it? There's clocks all over the house. I've got a radio-controlled one that's on 1:30. And they're all confused. A car clock, it needs a rocket scientist to change.
Oh, it does in mine. I'm going to stay on GMT for mine.
Yeah, but then I don't know what time it is.
I
And
know.
if you're like my mum, her clock's always 7 minutes fast, so she's never late. So what time is it?
Hey, look, we've got lots coming in, and we're going to wrap up in a moment or two. What have we got here? This is a text here. This is one for you, Mark. What about police programmes when the baddies are being interviewed? The solicitor never, ever says a word. If you watch Line of Duty or Vera, the solicitors never say a word. And that's true, they don't. They just sit there and nod. They don't say a word.
Yeah. That's probably like in normal times when they had a few more people. Programs like EastEnders, where the majority of the people in the pub actually don't say anything. They'll be playing darts or whatever. They never ever speak.
And more coming in on prescription. This is a phone-in. Who takes the most pills a day?
My dad.
Margaret in Felixstowe. Mark, 5 pills a day. You don't know you're born. I'm on 15.
Oh, good.
There's a bit of one-upmanship now on this. Another one here. You know you're getting old when your regular prescription is 3 pages long, containing 12 drugs. It's quite embarrassing in Boots sometimes. Like the man said, they all run out at different times, so I'm in Boots most weekends for one or another. Says our
When they get
texter
to
here.
know you. My dad has one of those little things with Monday morning and afternoon and everything. So he spends hours popping his little pills out of their packets, putting them in the right days.
Yeah.
And poor old mum, she got confused the other day, and she said to me, "Sure, I had some pills for some ailment last winter, and it looked just the same as the ones I'm supposed to be on." She said, "I've been taking those pills for weeks. I wondered why I wasn't feeling right."
Mick in Hopton, I'm 75 and I don't take any tablets. Lucky you, Mick. What else have we got here? We're going to finish off with some toilet comments here. You were talking about tradespeople doing a number 2 in your property and you don't like it. Em's been in touch just to say we had building work done at the end of last year. Fantastic company did it, but they told us... where are we? It's disappeared. They told us it's now regulation for a portaloo to be put on site. Brilliant. I agree. I hate people using my toilet, so it was a joy, says M. So ask them to bring their own loo next time.
That's what someone said to me, actually, about that. But, a portaloo. I can't go in those.
Shirley got in touch. She says, when I had my garden altered, one chap daily used my loo as soon as he got there. So as soon as he rocked up at her house, he would go in and use the loo. So I decided not to answer the door, she says.
There's a story. There's an old tale about not doing that on your own doorstep, isn't it? So obviously bring it to work.
Yeah. Jim's been in touch. Until a couple of weeks ago, I worked at Ipswich Docks as a cleaner. Think yourself lucky they get it in the pan, he says.
Oh, God.
And John in Ipswich used to work for BT. Senior management meetings was union secretary. I said, why don't you allow the foreman on site to make his own decisions? Was met with an absolute hush. Eventually, he said, we couldn't do that. We'd put managers out of their jobs, says John. Thank you very much. And I think we're done. I think we are grumped out, all grumped out today. Thank you very much, Grumpies, and speak to you again very soon.